Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Shankar Maruwada, who is a co-founder and CEO of EkStep Foundation, which is a pioneering non-profit working to improve learning outcomes for millions of children in India. Shankar's journey spans across leadership, across Procter & Gamble, co-founding Marketex, and also building Unique Identification Authority of India, where he played a key role in Aadhaar initiative. Shankar has been featured in MIT Sloan Management Review, India's Policy 50, which is a definitive list of 50 leaders who are steering and shaping India's digital economy. Welcome to the show, Shankar.
Thank you, Rohit. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So, Shankar, you've had a very interesting journey across corporate, startups, and government, and now social impact. So, how did you get your start in this, and what are some of the early experiences you had which shaped you into building what you've done right now?
Yeah. So, as you have said, I've led multiple lives in my professional career,
Great.
corporate, entrepreneurship, government, and now development philanthropy sector. In some ways, my early upbringing prepared me for this. I grew up and I've lived across 7 different states of India, Northeast, Southwest. As a young child growing up, my father was in a job where, he had to, which had factories all over India.
Right.
So I grew up learning Odia, Malayalam, Bengali. My mother tongue is Telugu. Obviously, I can speak English and Hindi. I can understand a fair bit of other languages. So when you are hopping across, the one thing that you learn is to quickly adapt, be flexible. You can't control circumstances changing around you. So the being ability to adjust and take advantage of what is happening to you rather than just uh, uh, reacting from anxiety. So that I think was a kind of a hard-earned superpower as I was growing up.
Correct.
So what that did for me was when I was studying at IIT Kharagpur, when I was studying with many other brilliant minds, or at IIM Ahmedabad, where you learn how to handle pressure and any kind of situation. So the corporate life was very productive. I learned a lot at P&G, which is almost a 200-year-old corporate and a multinational. When I became an entrepreneur in late 1999, around the millennium, 25 years ago, I was not prepared for being an entrepreneur. Those days, it was not fashionable to be an entrepreneur, right? It was something you did rather a silly thing or a stupid thing in leaving a cushy multinational life. And to compound it, I just got married in 1999. Right?
Okay. Right.
So it's one of those things that if I were to tell my younger self, I would kind of say, are you really sure you want to do it? But yeah, it's one of those things that you do. But the entrepreneurial life, with all its scrappiness, right? Every day is a battle, uh, was again something that taught me a lot.
Right.
Essentially, how do you create value for diverse stakeholders? How do you innovate? Uh, how do you build an organization to deliver value? And how do you do it in a way to maximize value for your employees, for the shareholders, but most importantly for your customers? What does customer centricity mean? How do you leverage data? My startup was in data analytics, right?
Right.
So that was quite the journey. And then, so once I had a successful exit, you think you've seen it all, right? Studied in the best of schools, worked in the best of places, successful entrepreneur. And then almost accidentally, I met Nandan somewhere, and he was looking at some volunteers. He was still in Infosys then. He was looking at volunteers for a project he was thinking about. I didn't know what it was, but I said, sure, happy to help out. And that turned out to be UIDI and Aadhaar. So that's when I used my brand management and marketing skills to create the brand Aadhaar. I was tasked with, we need a name for it, right? So that was a 9-10 month effort. And I chose the name Aadhaar because Aadhaar meant a foundation. And that was again a phenomenal learning experience. You think you've seen it all as a corporate, as an entrepreneur, but solving for something at the scale of India, that was again a life-changing experience, right?
Right.
And then So, after the job was done, we all walked out, and then we started EkStep Foundation. Nandan, Rohini Nilekani, myself, and some of those who worked together at Aadhaar. The good or bad thing about doing it once, in the case of Aadhaar, is you develop a sense of belief that you can use technology to transform the country, right? So, in a
Correct.
sense, EkStep was the continuation of that journey with a strong initial focus on education. And we called it EkStep because from the old saying, I think it's Chinese, that journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Yeah.
So, however big a thing you want to achieve, it all starts with many small steps. So we started EkStep in around 2015,
Right.
and that is again, that's this year we are celebrating the 10th anniversary, year 10. So that's been again a fascinating journey. We learned a lot from previous, but an entirely different world. And that's something which I'll go into deeper into the subsequent conversation.
Correct, correct. No, so super interesting. I think Aadhaar is one of the one of the strongest initiatives which has come up in the last couple of years. But you mentioned about EkStep, which is working on building a digital transformation for a billion people. So how did that vision start, and what are you trying to build
Yeah.
for EkStep?
Yeah. So again, going back to Aadhaar, the reason we named it Aadhaar or a foundation was we reimagined identity not as a solution like a
Right.
PAN card or passport or driving license, but as an infrastructure.
Okay.
We didn't think of it as the car, but as the road, as the rails, as the plumbing, the invisible infrastructure on which you can build many, many, many edifices.
Okay.
So that's how after Aadhaar you had UPI and then DigiLocker and many, many other things built by others.
Correct.
So at EkStep, we took a similar approach. How can we think of a digital infrastructure in education? And we
Interesting.
chose education and within that primary education because it's fundamental to India achieving its potential, health, agriculture, education, right? Without this, we don't stand a chance.
Right.
So there again, like in Aadhaar, where we set out with a very ambitious goal of reaching 600 million people in Aadhaar in 5 years and a billion in 10.
No.
Uh, by the way, just for record's sake, 600 million was achieved with 6 months to spare in 4.5 years,
Nice.
and a billion was achieved with 3 to 4 years to spare in 6 to 7 years.
Nice.
So here we set out with a big audacious goal. How do we reach 200 million children in India in schools? At that time we had 250, and give them access to learning opportunities. So it's again about access and infrastructure in high school education. So again, like any good entrepreneurial venture, we had a lot of initial ideas. They proved to be wrong or naive. And over the first 2 years, we tried a lot of things, stumbled, fell, but we learned a lot from that. And then we got an opportunity to partner with the government of India, who were looking for a national platform.
Okay.
So that partnership created something called Diksha, which is a government of India school education platform. In fact, Diksha is an acronym. And Diksha was launched in 2017 by the Vice President.
Right.
Diksha is an acronym which stands for Digital Infrastructure for Knowledge Sharing.
Interesting.
So as you can see, the idea of a digital infrastructure was baked into the name, right?
Right.
And so that was a fascinating journey. And as a result of that partnership, where we created a national infrastructure, which the center in turn could provide to the states. So the states could come onto it voluntarily.
Okay.
And within the first 2 3 years, some 28 states and union territories came onto it, which was excellent timing for India
Right.
because by the time COVID came in March 2020, India already had a digital platform on which most of the country already was there.
Right.
So as a result, while schools shut, schooling could continue because of this uh, digital platform. And teacher training through a program called Nishtha, which before then used to happen face to face, could now switch to digital.
Yeah.
And so India was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And then we completely transitioned Diksha to the government of India by 2022.
Okay.
So we think in terms of 5-year chapters. So chapter one was 2015 to 20. We are at the end of chapter two,
Okay.
right? And in a sense, we set out in chapter one to reach 200 million children by 2020. We didn't end up too badly, maybe 180 million, 190 million, depending upon the reach of Diksha. So that was a very satisfying chapter one of our story.
Correct. Correct. Interesting. And EkStep focuses on creating digital good start impact, literacy, and learning. What's been the most unexpected learning for you from working at this scale when you're trying to impact millions of people?
Yeah. Excellent question, Rohit. When you're working at that scale and when you're working through a process by which first you build the foundation,
Yeah.
which is in this case, we built an open source technology called Sunbird,
Okay.
on which Diksha was built. So Sunbird is a bunch of open source, freely available code. If you go to sunbird.org, the code is all there. Anyone can download it and start using it.
Okay.
We actually spent twice the money that we should have in first creating this open source code and then helping government create Diksha on top. One of the benefits of this kind of an approach, which is infrastructure built on open digital public goods, was that the states could all innovate in their own way. So to give you one particular example, the first popular application of Diksha was uniquely numbered QR codes printed in textbooks.
Okay.
What happens with that is, therefore, the child or the teacher opens the textbook. On various pages, you have a QR code.
Right.
If you have a device, you use the QR code, it opens up digital content relevant to that particular page and topic you are on.
Interesting.
Who decides where to put the QR code? The state government which is printing the textbook, not government of India. Who decides what kind of digital content? The state authorities.
Okay.
So this was the architecture of Diksha, which allowed every state who's anyway printing the textbook to just add a small QR code and connect it to digital content.
Interesting.
And the Diksha platform ensured that everybody could just create and upload their content and make it available to the children.
Right. Right.
This was the basic architecture of Diksha. And likewise, the second successful application was teacher training, where you go through a digital course online. At the end of it, you answer some questions and you get a digitally verifiable certificate. So these two were the big use cases. So what happened was, states started saying, hey, can I use the same idea in the students' diaries? So they could use that to communicate with the parent. Some states started putting up posters in the schools with some relevant educational material with a QR code which could connect back to content. Uttar Pradesh created a very small booklet, A5 size booklet, which could be kept in a teacher's handbag or a pocket of a shirt. Just 10, 12 pages. Each page having 10, 15 words about a topic and what it is about and a QR code. So the teacher opens it, oh yeah, I want to know something about this or I need to know something about this, uses the QR code to access the content. So the imagination of QR code was as a GPS that anybody could put. Now, let's As I said, all of this was created as publicly available open source code.
Right.
When COVID came, suddenly there was a need to verify vaccinations of people. So,
Okay.
do you remember your COVID vaccination?
Yeah.
There you'll find a big QR code.
Correct.
That technology was straight taken from here because it existed. So, in some sense, the technology that millions of children used and millions of teachers used to access content was used by the healthcare system to verify that you've been vaccinated. So, in a sense, as we like to say, there's a little bit of sunburn in every Indian because 2 billion vaccination certificates were issued, right?
Yeah.
So, it's always satisfying that the nature of mankind is to innovate. Innovation happens when you take tools and reassemble them in new configurations to solve a problem which you've not thought of. So the satisfaction was while we set out to solve a problem, some of what we did helped all of India in a crisis. Another example is we had met the Honorable Prime Minister in August of 2019. And among other things, we discussed Diksha.
Yeah.
So his request to Nandan and me was, can you help us create a Diksha-like thing for civil servants?
Okay.
Fast forward to 2025, there are 15 million Indian government employees who are being trained online using a platform called IGOT or the Integrated Government Online Training.
Okay.
Again, Government of India, Department of Personnel and Training. That the core of that is also Sunburn. So while
Interesting.
we set out to create technology to solve the problem of children accessing content, you have hundreds of millions of Indian citizens benefiting because railway employees, police employees, IAS officers, central and state government officers, they're improving themselves by learning online, building on the same basic technology that we created. So innovation with the right architecture can bring a lot of unexpected results.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's fantastic that when you're trying to build at that scale, you're trying to include. But how do you balance that sort of innovation with inclusivity, where ensuring that no one is left behind, especially at India scale.
Yeah, great question. So the starting point for us is the ending point. What
Okay.
do I mean by that? You're imagining something deployed at the scale of India. 1.4 billion Aadhars, right?
Yeah.
You imagining something of the scale of UPIs, Diksha. At that scale, if you work backwards, if you want scale, impact, and sustainability, the first thing that you realize is India scale means you have to be inclusive. So, Diksha, you assume that people may not have digital devices, they may not have access to personal devices, they may not have connectivity. You have to factor in all of these various situations as you design. So, three ways. You can design it as self-service. I have a device, I can do this myself. You can do this as assisted, where I have a device and I can help you with what you're doing. Or third is completely do it for me. I can do it entirely for you at a service. So between these three modes, you also look at online versus offline, individual device or a group device. So this is not something you do post facto. So we call it designing for what works at scale. And this is different from scale what works, which is the normal way of looking at it. You try something out. If it works, you will scale it up.
Correct.
You scale it up, and at some point you find limits to that scale, because an elephant is not a big mouse. You can't take a mouse you've designed successfully and stretch it in 3 dimensions and expect it to be an elephant. If at scale what you need is an elephant, you have to design for that elephant. In this case, you design for the existing ecosystems and how can they use what you're creating.
Right. Correct. And you've been part of like Aadhaar program and DPI, which have become global models. What lessons should countries learn from India's journey when it comes to deploying that sort of
Yeah.
models?
Yeah. So if you see, what DPIs have allowed us to do is almost leapfrog in terms of development. There's a research which has shown that in terms of financial inclusion,
Right.
India has achieved in 8 years what it should have taken nearly half a century to do.
Yeah.
Right? Quantified what I mean by leapfrog. Why does that happen? Number one, in DPI, you're designing something as a shared capability.
Right.
Before you build automobiles, you're building the road. A road is a shared capability,
Right.
right? Sewerage is a shared capability because everybody does not have to build it. So you're offering something as a shared capability. In our case, identity,
Right.
Aadhaar, payments, UPI, documents, DigiLocker. So this shared capability offered digitally means others can innovate on top of this. Because by design, it has been thought of as an infrastructure. You design and build a road, assuming that cars will come and go, cars will evolve, but they all need a road to go on. So when you are buying a car, you're not paying for the road that the car guy has to pay. You're just paying for the car. So the second point is this should be used by others to innovate on top for whatever reason. Somebody could do it for inclusion. Governments use Aadhaar for direct benefit transfer, and Geo and people like Zerodha use it for innovation. That's the nature of infrastructure, right?
Right.
What I use electricity for, it could be for anything. You don't have a point of view on that.
Right.
Third point is, none of this matters if people don't use what you've created. If Aadhaar did not get adoption,
Correct.
if people did not use UPI, that means citizens and businesses are not finding value, so it's not useful, no value. And the fourth point, so coming to the third point, in terms of adoption at EkStep, we follow a design principle called +1 thinking or radical incrementalism. You design it such that the technology and how to use the product is very familiar to the user. So you don't make the user walk many steps to technology. You make the technology walk to where the user is. Dumb down the technology if needed to make it easy and convenient for a user. So it's not about technology, it's about the usability of it to add value to the citizen or business's life. UPI is not sophisticated technology. It's a very simple protocol that others innovate and build apps on, right?
Yeah. Right.
With Aadhaar, nobody realizes how sophisticated the technology is because that's all hidden in the backend. You just go, you give some details, get an Aadhaar and use it to open a bank account or whatever, right? You
Right.
also use Aadhaar in a way when you walk through Digi Yatra.
Okay.
Most people don't even realize it, right? It's a verification that you are Rohit Malhotra and that you have a ticket which allows doors to magically open when you stand in front of them in Digi Yatra, right?
Right. Right.
This is like an example of you have created your innovation, such that others can use it as a building block. Others can innovate on top of that. And that's the fourth design principle of allowing, in fact, evangelizing others to build on top of that. This is what's happened, the four principles that came together for DPI.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, digital public infrastructure is not just about technology, it's a socio-economic architecture to transform a country. Which is why it's exciting for other countries around the world who are also in a post-COVID era struggling to catch up on lost times and looking at smarter ways of achieving their ambitions.
Interesting, because you've been part with conversations in Australia and few other countries about DPI, but how can these models be adapted in different cultures and different political contexts?
Yeah, excellent question. India, which is 1.4 billion people, we also are blessed with a lot of resources, right?
Right.
But if you take some of the Pacific Island countries, they're very small, each
Correct.
one of them, right? So the idea of something as a shared capability, the idea of a digital identity, digital payment, which in case of some of the Pacific Island countries, gives them a resilience against natural disasters. Right? So
Right.
the conversations are to understand what are their unique problems. Scale is not their problem, right? But
Right.
because they don't have scale, they may not have so many resources. But handling natural disasters, weather disasters, some of them are facing the threat of climate change,
Right. Correct.
but they still have to solve these two problems of welfare to the citizens in a smarter way and economic growth and more opportunities for their businesses. So let's say with small island countries, the idea is, can there be a concept of a shared infrastructure for a region, for a group of island countries?
Right.
With Australia, for example, as we're discussing, an interesting case came out. They have a mission to end domestic violence in the country in 7-10 years.
Okay.
Domestic violence or violence against women is a local community problem. But some elements of the affected person needs financial help, needs food, shelter, safety, uh, etc., which various sections of society provide, various service providers provide. How can you coordinate your resources? And the digital part of DPI means, can we create a shared capability which allows the various actors of to come together to better coordinate their services around the impacted citizens. So if you see Digi Yatra or even Aadhaar, right, or UPI, you have all the data about the financial transactions with you. Digi Yatra, you give permission, and then after that trip is over, you can revoke permission, right?
Right.
Digi Locker, you can give access to someone to your digital credentials. So what India has shown is a new socio-economic architecture is possible, which is truly citizen-centric and not database centric. One of the problems of digitalization is your data lies in multiple data silos. These silos may not talk to each other because they're lying with different service providers, different parts of government.
Right.
Rather than imagine it as the governments have to coordinate with each other, the reimagination is coordinate around my use case. And so the data is shared only for that use case, and I give consent for sharing of data. So these ideas of data sharing, these ideas of better coordination through a shared capability, that's what we realized that Australia can learn from what India is doing, and India in turn can learn from how they are collaborating, and now they have very sophisticated laws on privacy, data security, etc., which we can learn from. So it's an exchange of knowledge.
So super interesting. And where do you see DPI playing that role in sectors like agriculture and healthcare in next coming years?
Yeah. So let me talk of agriculture, because as EkStep, we are working a lot on that now. One of India's DPIs in agriculture is called the Agri Stack.
Okay.
The Agri Stack is essentially like India Stack is identity, payments, and documents.
Right.
Agri Stack comprises three things: a farmer registry, a farm registry, and a crop registry. So every state creates its own farmer crop registry. So what this does is, now that the state knows about the farmer,
Right.
it's easier for the state to give welfare to the farmer. If the state knows what the farmer is farming, it allows them to again provide better services and also plan as a country. So there is already an agri stack. In AI, what is now happening is, how can AI meet DPI in a way that we call it not as DPI plus AI, but DPI to the power of AI. What do I mean by that? When well architected and implemented, AI can help improve the power of a DPI. And because of India's DPI, which reaches the last mile, AI can use these distribution channels to very quickly reach the last mile in India, which is a unique advantage we have in India. So in agriculture, what that would translate to is, there's a project called Kisan Mitra of the Government of India. They're using AI for citizen redressal and grievance management. So farmer wants to know what's the status of my benefits, right?
Right.
Farmer is mostly not very literate or digitally literate. They may have a phone, they might at best use WhatsApp. So what I'm telling you already is happening with around uh, 15 million farmers, which is, farmer can speak to the phone using WhatsApp on a designated number of the government and ask in their local language what the status of my benefits disbursement. And using the best of AI tools like voice to text and reasoning, this is all created built on an India stack, India AI stack. I mean, the in the back end, it asks for the Aadhaar number, verifies this person is who he or she is, and with the farmer's consent, checks on the database, gets the information back, and says that yes, your money has been disbursed or will disburse, or sorry, you're not eligible for this scheme, and so you may contact this local office for further things. All of this happens in seconds, and the answer is a conversation back. As I said, 15 million farmers have been using it. The surprising thing is, as the government officials told us, as a result of this, the physical stacks of paper on the government officials' desk, which are farmer redressal which they have to look at, the stack has reduced.
Nice.
Also, they have data about what kinds of complaints and queries are coming from which part of India.
Right.
So again, a fascinating example of DPI meeting AI. Health also, something like that is happening, but as EkStep, we don't work on health, so I can't talk in too much detail about that. But this is something which is the exciting present,
Right.
DPI to the power of AI.
Correct, correct. Super interesting. And obviously, you were talking about AI, and we had ChatGPT coming out in 2022,
Yeah.
but I've seen a lot of AI companies. I mean, I think it's been last week where Anthropic had raised around $17 billion, at a $350 billion valuation. But a lot of AI startups are struggling with unit economics. So do you think they're deemed to bleed cash, or do you think public platforms can help shift that equation going forward?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I've seen something similar like this back in the internet, early days of internet,
Right.
the internet boom and bust, right? So I would be surprised if many companies will be burnt, small startups, right? And out of those ashes will rise something. And both of what you're saying will likely happen. Some platforms will come, there'll be some consolidation. But to me, the true power of AI, and I think some of the debate is insufficient, if not wrong. When I say insufficient is AI will take away our jobs. Yeah, sure, right? But it's like saying with electricity, we'll have nights converted into day. That's one part of it. But the larger reality is society is going to be completely transformed. And if you look at the example of electricity,
Correct.
the real power of when Thomas Edison lit up the night with an electric bulb, the real power was not in the bulb, it was invisible electricity. And we think the invisible superpower of AI is in its ability to coordinate complex systems.
Right.
And that we haven't even begun to see what will happen. It will take 5 years, 10 years. Remember, it's around 15 years of cloud. And even now, cloud has not been universally adopted, right?
Correct.
We can't think of a life without cloud. Likewise, AI will take 5, 10 years. And my hope and belief is that India will be at the cutting edge of AI use cases.
Correct.
Not necessarily at the cutting edge of large language models and technology, not for the next 10 years, but we will be at the cutting edge of getting 1.5 billion people to better deliver education services, health services, agriculture services, look at AI for retraining our workforce, right? That is in our control. Who spent how many billions on what technology may or in which country may or may not be in our control.
Okay. Correct. Super interesting. And with new products like Lovable and Bold and Versal, what has happened is it's become easier to build products. But where do you think that defensibility is going to come in? Is it going to be through technology or ecosystems or governance?
Yeah. Funnily, Rohit, what I'm realizing is the more and more things change, the more and more first principles matter.
Correct. Right.
So the ultimate defensibility is my process and capability to understand the customer
Right.
and reimagine the value chain around the customer. And then everything else follows. Get the data to improve my products, improve products, get to more data, right? And think in terms of collaborating with others. So how I construct my value chain. A car is not a better horse, faster horse, right?
Right.
An AI-based business is not a business with AI. There will be a new generation of companies who will imagine AI first value delivery. Just like in the initial days of internet, people put a website called a portal and thought they were online. Right?
Yeah.
It took 2-3 generations to realize that an internet first business, a digital first business is different from a conventional business that also has digital. So I think we'll see the same in AI. We'll see 1 or 2 generations of companies that will try stuff before we'll have some sense of what the future looks like, which is exciting for me.
Correct. Interesting. And somebody who's 18 years old listening to the podcast, should young people study computer science degrees with newer tools like Lovable and Cursor, which allows people to write codes and all that? what advice would you give to somebody who's getting into college? How should they be AI ready, and should they pursue, popular courses like computer
Yes.
science?
Yeah. Let me talk of the danger of what I'm seeing,
Right.
which is kids using chat GPT kind of thing for everything, right?
Correct.
It makes your life very easy. You have the young developers using these tools to write code.
Right.
As I'm talking to some of the industry folks and even teachers, what we're realizing is the struggle you do, the struggle you have with a subject, with a topic to learn a skill, right? That struggle is more important because that struggle teaches you the why and the how. More and more as tools replace tasks, right? As in, you don't need a human to do it. Now, a bot can do the research for you.
Correct.
Being an expert with the right tool will be valued much more than someone who's going through a task. So, developing code, if you see it as a task to be done, machine will do it far better than you. But if you see that finally the code has to deliver value to a customer or a user, and therefore reliability, accuracy, that is a matter of judgment.
Right.
So in computer science, what you learn might differ, but some of the fundamental basics will matter even more. So what AI will do is it will shift the value from a certain part of economic activity to another.
Right.
From any developer to a developer who understands the why, who can understand consumer needs, who can understand complex data databases. Because finally, what AI is doing is it's manipulating data to create an output. Where do you get the data? What kind of data? How do you train it?
Right.
So being able to use tools wisely to deliver value, that is going to be the new scarcity, which is why you have in the valley the big tech paying hundreds of billions of dollars of salary, right?
Right.
Because it's what is valued.
Got it. So super interesting. And Shankar, you've been recognized as one of the top most influential voices in AI. The recently, MIT review report came out that you were one of the top 50 digital voices in India. So what does influence mean to you, and what should influence mean to somebody in this context?
For me, influence means a responsibility.
Right.
And with that responsibility means people will likely trust you more when you say something.
Right.
That's why it's also a responsibility, right?
Right.
So that responsibility allows one to have conversations with a bunch of people
Correct.
and together reimagine society, reimagine businesses, reimagine development, right?
Right.
And as a foundation, I say as EkStep, we're a philanthropy. We don't charge anybody anything for what we do. All
Right.
that we do is open source. So we are a good meeting place for Sarkar, Samaj, and Bazaar. So the influence, along with the responsibility, puts us in a unique position to be able to have these conversations where we bring various people together to show the possibilities technology now enables, connect those possibilities to the purposes of government or a market player or whoever. And it's when people and possibilities come together, that's where magic happens.
Right.
That's why we're titling our chapter 3, the next 5 years, as People Plus Possibilities.
Okay.
We also have an initiative called People Plus AI,
Okay.
And it's not called AI plus people for that reason.
Correct. Interesting. And Shakti, you see both chaos in smaller startups and structure and organizations there. And so, in your experience, can chaos scale, or does it always need structure eventually, like when the company grows and becomes bigger?
Scale needs experimentation and innovation.
Right.
Scale also needs structure. It's like the human body, right?
Correct.
Without the spine, the rest of the body cannot hold. Without the skeletal structure, the rest of the body does not hold.
Correct.
But it's this stability that allows you to be agile and still grow.
Right.
Otherwise, it's Brownian motion. So chaos without structure is Brownian motion. Structure without chaos is bureaucracy,
Right.
whose job is to maintain order. Right?
Right.
And by the way, at one time I was curious about the word institution, right?
Right.
I read about it, a book by Douglas North. What an institution does is it constrains us, it restricts us. But it's this restriction that unleashes innovation.
Interesting.
Because in a sense, restriction are like the rules. Imagine you're playing cricket and there are no rules, right?
Right.
So structure provides stability. But if you think of structure as physical structure, as something that is calcified, that's dangerous. Structure should also evolve. Just like English has an underlying grammar, a structure, right?
Right.
But English evolves.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So these two are the yin and yang for me. Chaos and structure are yin and yang, both need each other.
Correct, correct. Super interesting. And Shankar, you've been part of EkStep and Aadhaar and part of big organizations as well. If you could go back and write a letter to yourself, to your younger self when you were at IIT, correct? But what advice you would give to yourself, which could help the
Yeah.
young listeners as well?
Yeah. When you're 18 and academically at the top of your game,
Yeah.
there is a natural ego that comes in that I can do a lot and I can do it myself,
Right.
right? And I can use the power of my intellect to solve any problem. So the lesson I would give my younger self likely could be leverage the power of your left and right brain, right? The power of belief, not just the power of intellect. Second, there's a lot more you can do together with people
Right.
than you can do alone. And third, persistence
Right.
matters much more than flashes of brilliance or a sprint.
Correct, correct. Interesting. And Shaka, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Yeah, 25 years ago, someone gifted a book called The True Professional by David Meister.
Nice.
It helped me to rethink of what a true professional does. It helped me craft some of the business strategies of my startup called Marketix. And so I've read many more books of David Meister, but The True Professional was a life-changing book.
Correct, correct. We'll put that in the show notes. And Shankar, if you could go back in time when you started EkStep, is there anything you would want to do differently?
Yeah. When we started, I would say we were more arrogant about the power of technology.
Okay.
Okay. Even though intellectually we were saying the right things,
Right.
I think there was a bit of hubris that technology can do a lot, right?
Right.
Which is why now we say it's people plus possibilities and not people plus technology, because all technology does is creates possibilities, right? And people with their purpose, their capability, how they work with each other, they convert those possibilities into reality. So yeah, I would go back. That's one thing I would change.
Correct. And do you have the favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom, ChatGPT?
Online tool, I guess it has to be Google Drive because it's a super tool for coordination.
Right.
Yeah, and all the Google suite of slides and notes and all of that. And offline, I use a tool called Remarkable, which is a
Nice.
dumb digital notebook.
Correct.
You cannot browse on it. When you write on it, you feel like you're writing on paper.
Correct.
It allows you to focus. So what I do is sometimes I just take PDFs of important emails and documents, get off all digital devices, and keep working on it for 2-3 hours. So that is a productivity hack for me.
Correct. Correct. We'll put down the show notes. And Shankar, what's the best way people can reach out to you and know more about EkStep?
I'm available on LinkedIn, and
Right.
EkStep is on ekstep.org. Where we talk about the various initiatives we do. There's also an EkStep LinkedIn page, and they can connect with us there. I'm not too much of a social media person, so I'm not on Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. But yeah, LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn presence.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Shankar, thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you.